there, welcome to our channel. I'm Vic.
And I'm Nick.
And we're MV Board Gaming. And today we're looking at New York Zoo. This is a 1 to 5 player game designed by Uwe Rosenberg. And it is published by Capstone Games and Furland Games.
That's the ticket.
Hard one for me. Nick is going to go through how you play and then we're going to give our reviews.
Hello everyone, welcome to the table for the overview of New York Zoo, a game by Uwe Rosenberg. Let's go over a little bit of how you play here. The winner of this game is going to be whoever fills out their personal map first. There's no score, nothing like that. The game's going to end right when that happens. So we're going to have our starting resources, which are actually animals. Those will be listed at the top of your player board. And you're going to grab the boards that show your player count. So I grabbed the 2-player board here. I'm going to set that off to the side, and we're going to go over the main board and what you're doing on your turn. First thing you're going to do is you're going to move your elephant. Depending on the player count, and it will say on your actual board, so I'll bring that back in focus, 1 to 4 in a 2-player game, it'll move. I believe it's in a 2-player game 1 to 4, in a 4-player game 1 to 4, but in a 3-player game and a solo, if I'm not mistaken, it's the opposite. It's 1 to 3. So 1 to 4 spaces, this elephant is going to move clockwise. Now their movement is going to be in places that have these enclosures, so that's going to be one movement. 2 animals is another movement, but things that do not count as movement are empty enclosure areas. That does not count, you'll skip right over it, and breeding areas, which look like this, just show one animal in the middle of the places you're moving to. So again, enclosure areas and places with the 2 animals. So it starts at that circle right here. It's going to move as many times as I want, up to 4. It has to move though. So what I could do, for instance, I could take an enclosure. You always have to take top one. So these count down. The ones that have more squares on them are on top. And I can put this down. I have to have animals, which we start with those 2 as I mentioned. I have to have animals in order to place it because they're going to have to go in the enclosure. So I can do that and just put the enclosure out. If I don't have the animals, I cannot do that action. I have to grab animals. If I were to do the one for animals, if I were to go, let's say here and get a penguin and a kangaroo, I would stop there instead of grabbing that and grab those tokens, a penguin and a kangaroo right there. And I would be able to put them in my homes right here. Well, you notice I only have 1 spot, so I can only grab 1. Boards are different though. There are different boards that have, another board that has 4 homes that they can go in, but mine had 3. So in my case, I have to decide, do I want the penguin or do I want the kangaroo? I would put that on my board and discard the other. And that is that. So next turn, I know for sure I'm going to want an enclosure because I cannot grab any more animals. They have nowhere else to go. So I have to grab an enclosure. When I grab an enclosure, let's say on my next turn, even though this, because now my opponents get to go, so they're by the time it's my turn, we'll probably be all the way down somewhere over here, depending on the player count. In 2 players, let's just say I ended up here. I grab this enclosure. I can put it anywhere on my board. There's no rules like, oh, it has to be adjacent to the edge of the board or anything like that. And that goes throughout the whole game. If I go here, I can put another one later on over down here. It doesn't matter. So keep that in mind, because that is fairly unusual for a polyomino game, but you can place it wherever. So when I do place it, like I said, I have to have an animal go with it. So these squares on the chart, let me move down the camera just a little bit. Good enough. This, oops, stop shaking. All right, so if I did this, I put it in one of these squares. So 7, I think, yep, 7, 4, 3, yep. Squares on one of these large ones. I put it like that. These other 2 are still here. I cannot put the same animal in one enclosure, so only penguins can go in that enclosure. When I fill that enclosure, by virtue of collecting more penguins on the board, or when I have 2 penguins and we pass the penguin breeding area, which is still on camera, so it's right there. So when we pass that, if I have 2 or more on the board, I will be able to earn another penguin every time we pass the breeding. It doesn't matter how many I had. So let's say I had 5. I would still only have 1 penguin that goes on there. I wouldn't have 2 because there's multiple breeding. No. But that is all you're doing. You're moving your elephant and you're collecting animals or enclosures. You have to have animals to collect enclosures. You cannot have multiple animals in an enclosure. When you completely max out, if you fill this up with all 7 penguins, you'll remove all but 1. They can go back to your home. And this one is now empty. Oops. And these will be discarded. And then I get to collect an attraction. So let's bring it back up for a second. Those attractions are at right at the top of your screen over here. I can grab the best one that I want. I can grab this one. There's only one of them, and it covers the most. So I can just throw that right there, and boom. That helps me complete my total objective of covering my board. So you can see that I get lesser and lesser, all the way down to a 1x1. There's a bunch of those. So those will help you as soon as you fill out these enclosures. And the enclosures get smaller and smaller the farther down the stack you go. This one's only a 4 enclosure, so it's easier to fill. And that's all you're doing. You're going to go ahead and have a race to see who can fill out their park the most efficiently and best. And that's how you play, and we'll go up top and tell you our thoughts.
All right, and we are back. Thank you so much for the overview of New York Zoo. I guess we'll just start right off the bat with this game has animal meeples, so you know it's going to be great.
Animals, check.
Yeah.
Sam should like it. I think Sam did like it. We let her borrow it.
Yeah.
So, pros, animal meeples.
Meerkats.
Meerkats was my biggest pro right off the top. When you open it, you see meerkats. Meerkats are a superior animal at the zoo because they actually care about when you enter and leave. They're stand up, looking at you. They're awesome.
Yeah.
Just like river otters who actually care. They'll swim with you. They'll swim your path with you. Really cool animals. And I think that's really cool. The meeples are really cool.
Yeah, I love that right away. That when I know it's going to be an animal themed game, I get excited. But then when they have actual miniatures of, well, not miniatures, meeples of the animals, but they're cute little meeples, and it's nice that they're all different. And there's so many different animals instead of just being lazy and saying here's 2 animals. So I mean, it's a zoo. There's supposed to be like a few different animals. So I liked that. I like how simple the game is. There's not a lot of rules. It's really very basic. Like, what's the age, I wonder, on this game? It's not on the box, I don't think.
It's not? Okay. Well,
yeah, it was on the other one.
The other one, yeah. We don't have the bottom, or do we? No, that's
No.
me.
But the age must be under 10 years old. It's got to be...
Maybe 10 plus,
yeah,
8 plus.
It's something like that because it's not very difficult. You're just making a choice of how far you want to move, and if you're going to take a tile to put down on the and fill with animals, like a paddock or a habitat for
Enclosure,
it,
yeah.
enclosure. Thank you. I was looking for the word. You can choose to take that, or you can choose to take an animal straight up, and then as you go by things, there's breeding phases, so you'll have a chance to gain more of those animals into your zoo. And it's a race. So if you enjoy race games, this is a game where you're racing to fill a space, which everyone kind of has a different board too. Everyone's kind of got different things going on there. Yeah. So you're trying to fill it up as fast as possible by getting the those special enclosures, the different vending.
They're attractions.
Attractions by hopefully putting those pieces in, because otherwise you got to keep getting animals and filling up the enclosures. So it's an interesting game to me. I think that it's for the simplicity of it. I enjoy playing it because you can really get through a game rather quickly of it. So the speediness of the game is appealing to me. What did you think of that?
Yeah, I think it's a good family weight game. So there, I will mention a little bit in the negative about that as well. But a good family weight game, and yes, the boards are a little different, but not staggeringly different. I guess your home base is a little different. That's interesting to me. That one player would only have 2 spots where they can put in the top left of the board, and some have 3 and some have 4. Interesting scaling there. If more experienced players maybe take the one that only gives you 2, and less experienced can have the one that gives you 4. I don't know. You can decide. But it scales well as far as player count. I like that 2, I like that at 4. I think maybe best at 2. I'm not sure though. It's still works good at 4 because those turns are snappy enough that it worked. I like the win condition. There's no points. There's nothing like once you finish it, you're done. Like you win.
That's it.
That's cool. That's cool. That's nothing to calculate. No halt in the game. Well, what'd you do here? No objectives. Which I like objectives, but it's nice in this game that you just know you won.
Yeah.
It's gratifying. You can see it coming a mile away. Like, oh, if this gets to my next turn, I'm gonna win, because you can see like I'm for sure doing this. No one can stop me. I also like that the tiles you get better as you go. The reason they get better, and what you can see is there's less there's less to fill. There's less animals you need to fill, and when you fill, you get the attractions. So it's a nice little scaling mechanism where it gets harder to fill and then it gets easier to fill.
Yeah.
You have to dig down deep in those slots.
It was thought out well in that regard. I
Yeah.
agree.
So yeah,
Rather
using
than
the
just randomly having the tiles out there with the
Right.
Yeah, so that I think is a good summary of the pros of the game. I think the component quality is pretty good. It's decent. They're wooden meeples. The player board is fair. It's fine. There's nothing crazy about it. The graphic design is okay. It's not the most amazing art, but it's fine for what it is.
Box art's pretty nice.
Yeah, and I mean zoo themes. If you enjoy the theme, yeah, I like the theme, so I'm pro zoo. So I like
one of our first dates was a zoo, so that helps.
Yeah.
Not too wild about. I love animals. I'm not too wild about small enclosures for big animal. Like I'm very aware of that. So there is that about zoos that can be kind of taboo about zoos, but in general, like if they have a good place to roam, some of it's really safe for animals. So there's an argument there about it being very good for some type of animals to be in type of a place like a zoo. But I like zoos in general because I like animals. Looking at animals, like just watching, I could pull up a chair next to the meerkats and just sit there for hours, just like, hey, what's up, buddy?
So then I guess cons. We'll roll into some cons about the game. I'll say that it is a bit simple. I know that Nick's probably going to piggyback off that when he mentioned the family weight, so I don't want to speak too much about that. But I think that it can get a little bit messy too with putting the meeples out. You can lose track very easily because you're focused on your turn. You're thinking, planning ahead. Somebody goes by a breeding phase. You didn't even notice. Afterwards, you go, did I make that animal? Did I breed that animal? And it does matter because it's a race. So you want to get those animals out as fast as possible so you can turn them in for attractions. And I'm not saying I'm not always paying attention. Okay, there are times, yes, I'm guilty of maybe not being the most aware of what's happening. But yeah, I think it can easily happen to anyone in this game where you just lose because there's so much accrual of animals and things going on, people doing things like, I'm trading this in now, oh, me too, I'm doing this as well. And it can be kind of chaotic that way. And then those tile pieces, the big ones, the big attractions that take up a lot of space go away very quickly. And then there's a lot of these ones that don't take up as many spaces. And while that's interesting because you don't want to have too many of those big ones and make it too simple, it can be kind of demoralizing to know in a sense that you're taking too long to fill out those enclosures, so you're watching all the big attractions go away. You go, oh, you can kind of see, but I guess that's what happens in a race. If you're not fast enough right off the gate, or you're not picking up, moving with everyone else, you're gonna lose a race. So it's a race game. So with that in mind, it's not gonna be fair.
Yeah, you might not lose, but you have a disadvantage.
Yeah,
to start out slower.
I think definitely there's something to be said for that. And when you're putting those meeples down, you can easily knock things over. It's very tight spaces to be putting the tokens down.
Hard to rectify that though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Without it being a huge table hog.
Yeah.
Supersized.
And it's better that they have those instead of having chits. I would be so disappointed if they were animal chits. So I appreciate the 3D design, but the implications of that or the consequences are that you can probably knock them over a lot easier than chits. But still great that way. And in terms of any other cons, I really have to say, I mean, no, not really. I mean, there's luck to it in terms of how far someone's going to go if they're going to bypass where you're going to go, but it's not too much luck necessarily. Right. It's more just player interaction and the things that come with that. What about you?
So for an overall simple rule set, I will say that this is what you thought my piggyback. It's actually the opposite. It's a little clunky at spots. There's every game we've played that multiple times I've been asked about taking the animals out. When can I take them out, or when can I do this?
Yeah.
And I have to give the rule every time, and it's like repeatedly, multiple times per game, each game. So for a simple rule set, there's a little clunk factor with taking those animals out. When can I do that, or when can I?
I was actually going to say that too. Yeah, that was what I was thinking as well. Is that why was it so difficult to remember for simple rules? Okay, so wait, when can I add this animal? Where does it add? When I deplete the enclosure, where does the animals go?
Yeah, there are some of those rules that are like, wow, for a simple game, why are these here? Like, what? I don't know. I thought it could have been handled a little better for a family weight game, but it's okay. It's a negative, I would say, but it's okay. It's not like it's gonna kill the game or anything. But yeah, overall, a fairly simple game. The choices are kind of you almost feel like you're predisposed to picking something like you already know, like, oh, this makes no sense because I'm gonna get a meerkat and flamingo. I only need one to be okay. It just kind of plays itself. It's like, yeah, obviously I'm doing that. It's not like I don't feel as accomplished. I don't think I did something really clever here ever. Not really ever, I would say. There's no clever. It's not as rewarding as I'd like it to be. It's nice. The most reward I feel out of that is getting a big tile or getting the first one where I get that big park. Like, yes, boom, smack it. Doesn't mean I'm gonna win. As a matter of fact, I lost when I got that. And I thought, all right, this is in the bag because I got it real early. Like, I'm gonna win this. And
I thought you were too.
I didn't. I kept was doing really well and just couldn't beat somebody else in the race.
You sure you didn't win?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I lost. And this is a game that I liked a lot at first. When I first played it, I liked it a lot. Each play got lower, lower, lower. It's like, I've seen what the game has to offer. I get it. It's not as interesting as when I first, I thought it was nice and streamlined, boom, real quick, snappy, like the meeples, everything. It looks really good. And it felt good. And then it just kept tapering off every play.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
I found that with the lack of strategy, like, you can't go to each game like, all right, I'm going to try this strategy next time. Because it's like, there's no, that doesn't happen.
No.
It's go with what happens, wherever your elephant moves.
Point.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That would explain why it would taper off for, I bet, a decent amount of people. I know a lot of people love this game. A lot of people really like this game, and you might be one of them. And you might not have played it, and you might like it a lot. So I wouldn't say this is something I wouldn't recommend. I just felt, for me, it tapered off, and I feel like what you just pointed to is probably why. Yeah. I'm not changing. I'm playing the same thing over again, and I'm not really changing my gameplay. Yeah. And it's not even allowing that, really. I like how, I like how you don't have to be adjacent.
Oh, yeah,
cool.
I know, yeah.
Every game is polyomino, you have to play adjacent. I like just, I want to put it here, I'll put it there.
My zoo.
It's my zoo. You don't tell me how to live my life. All right, scores.
Yeah, so my score for this is 7.6. I think it's a fair score for it. I wouldn't say everyone has to own it. I think for certain, not for everybody. I don't think it's for everybody to have. It's not a must-own to me. Try it at a board game cafe. See if you like it. If you have a family, especially if you've got some young gamers that are coming up, that you want to show them a game that, they can get through and feel maybe they might win, because there's no hard skill required to win. There is a chance that maybe the youngest gamer in the family might get a victory because they've managed to get the right meeples at the right time, the right combinations of them. So
if you're looking for the penguins, buddy, there's the penguins. Go to the penguins, get the penguins, and it just starts accruing. It's not that much skill or thought. Yeah. You kind of have everything out in front of you. You can see what you want to go for.
Yeah, the animals just keep mating.
Yeah, let's keep going. All right, and I will give a score of how I feel about the game right now. Yeah. I'll say when I first started playing, it was probably around an 8.2. I liked it a lot, really clean design. And I'm just going to give an honest score of how I feel about it now. It's going to be a 6.4 for me. And, it's a fine game. I don't really care to play it now. At this point, I've seen everything it has to offer, unfortunately. I don't know if there's an expansion coming out or anything like that. But I've seen what the base game has to offer. And to me, it's not something that I want to come back to necessarily, because I've seen it. It's done. I do like showing it to new people. I think new people will like it their first play, like I did. Yeah. So I think it's one that you have a chance to play at a convention, or a friend owns it, or whatever the case may be, where you can get a play out of it. I think you will enjoy it. I think you'll like that first play, and maybe you like all your plays. Maybe you should own the game. I'm only going to sell it for your first play. It'll probably be really fun. Yeah. I liked it a lot, first play.
I agree with that. And I see potential for expansion if they wanted to introduce objective elements or new attractions, new things that are funny shapes that have certain conditions to them, where you have to have X amount of penguins and you can get this big attraction that is a penguin theater. Or like if they did something like that, I don't know how much that would help the game for you, but to have objectives might fuel the strategic thinking a bit more and make the game better. But as it stands right now, I don't see it getting better from my score, and I feel the same way you do, that it could perhaps go down from me the more we play it.
Yeah, well, there it is. Honest review.
Yeah, that's our review of New York Zoo. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please click the thumbs up, and subscribe to our channel for more great reviews. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.